There are films that entertain. There are films that impress. And then there are films that awaken souls. A film once shook the world, not with grand explosions or dazzling special effects, but with the sound of hammers striking nails, the silent agony of a blood-soaked Savior, and the thunderous stillness of a sealed tomb. The Passion of the Christ, directed by Mel Gibson, was not merely a movie. It was a sacred experience, a divine echo, a cinematic prayer, a cry from Calvary that pierced through history and into the hearts of millions. It wasn't just seen, it was felt, and that feeling brought many to their knees, not in despair, but in holy reverence. It was more than a film. It was a mirror reflecting back the depth of God's love, the unimaginable cost of redemption, and the eternal promise whispered through pain. You are worth this. Now, 2 decades later, that sacred cry is about to rise again, this time not in agony, but in triumph, not in death, but in resurrection. Mel Gibson is returning, not to entertain, but to proclaim. He is coming back with the resurrection of the Christ, a sequel not born of commercial ambition, but of divine urgency. And this is not just an update about an upcoming movie. This is a spiritual invitation to rediscover the most life-altering truth ever spoken. Christ is risen, and He is alive, even now, calling your name. Before we start, like the video and subscribe this channel. A bold beginning. Let us go back to 2004, a time when Mel Gibson, already an acclaimed actor and director, dared to do something no one in Hollywood dared. He wanted to tell the unvarnished truth about Jesus Christ's final hours on earth. Not sanitized, not softened. He wanted the story told in its sacred rawness, as preserved in the Gospels. He chose ancient languages, Aramaic, Hebrew, and Latin, not for flair, but for fidelity to divine history. Hollywood turned its back. Critics sneered. Financial backers disappeared. Many said it was too brutal, too graphic, too controversial. But heaven had already whispered the assignment, and He obeyed. With a humble budget and a heart on fire, Gibson funded most of the film himself. And what followed was not just success, it was a spiritual tidal wave. Over $611 million at the box office, but far beyond the numbers was the movement it sparked. Lives were transformed, testimonies began to pour in from every corner of the globe. A woman who had long rejected faith found herself sobbing in a dark theater, returning to the church she'd abandoned. A doctor who had performed abortions collapsed in grief after watching the crucifixion, walking away from that profession forever. A hardened prisoner, convicted of murder, wrote a broken letter after seeing the film, whispering, "Now I understand what forgiveness looks like." Theaters became sanctuaries. Good Friday became holy again. The screen became an altar. And the cry of Christ on the cross, "Father, forgive them," began echoing into hearts that had long been asleep. This wasn't entertainment. It was encounter. It wasn't fiction. It was fire. A path of suffering for a story of suffering. But such holy light often demands a holy price. The making of the Passion of the Christ mirrored the path of Christ himself. Gibson faced public ridicule, spiritual warfare, and crushing pressure. Studios mocked him. Friends turned away. He mortgaged his home. But he said something unforgettable. "I didn't care about failure. I cared about truth." Jim Caviezel, who portrayed Jesus, was struck by lightning during filming. He suffered a dislocated shoulder while carrying the cross. He endured freezing temperatures in a near hypothermic state. And yet, he later said, "It wasn't acting. It was testimony." They weren't just making a movie. They were living a message. Now comes the victory, and now the cry from the cross gives way to a shout from the empty tomb. The resurrection of the Christ is not merely a continuation, it is a divine crescendo. Filming begins in August 2025 in the ancient, sacred landscapes of Rome and southern Italy, lands that still carry the whispers of apostles and the footprints of martyrs. Jim Caviezel returns, this time not as the suffering Savior, but as the glorified Christ, the King of Kings, radiant in resurrection power. And he has called this next film the greatest story ever told on screen. But this film will not simply show the empty tomb and a risen Christ standing in golden light. It will dive deep into the sacred mystery of the 36 hours between death and resurrection, those hidden hours when Christ descended into the realm of the dead, shattering the gates of hell, setting the captives free, and proclaiming eternal victory. Visions of the mystics, echoes from heaven to bring this spiritual warfare to life. Gibson is drawing not only from the Gospels, but also from the divinely inspired visions of saints and mystics. Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich described in her Revelations a dazzling descent, Christ entering the underworld like a sword of light, breaking chains, silencing the demons, and leading the righteous into freedom. Saint Faustina, the mystic of divine mercy, wrote of encountering a risen Christ who said, "Do not be afraid. I am with you always." She described him clothed in unapproachable light, yet full of tender mercy. And Saint Gregory of Nyssa once wrote, "Christ did not merely rise from the grave. He opened the path for every soul who believes." These are not fables. These are glimpses of divine reality. And soon, that reality will be brought to screen, not just to witness, but to awaken. What resurrection really means? The resurrection of Jesus Christ is not symbolic. It is not metaphor. It is the heartbeat of all Christian faith. Without it, the cross is a tragic loss. With it, the cross becomes eternal triumph. Jesus did not rise to prove a point. He rose to open a door for you, for me, for all of humanity. The empty tomb is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of yours. You see, this isn't just his story. It's yours too. Because if Jesus is alive, then everything changes. Your past is no longer your prison. Your wounds are no longer your identity. Your failures no longer define your future. Every tear, every heartache, every dark valley now holds a new promise. You will rise again. The resurrection declares, you are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are loved eternally, completely, unshakably. Even now, Christ is whispering your name. Yes, you, reading these words. Maybe you've been tired. Maybe you've been lost. Maybe you feel like hope has slipped through your fingers. But the risen Christ says, I have conquered death, and I have come for you. Broken yet beloved, this film will not portray perfect disciples, because the story of resurrection isn't about perfection. It's about transformation. It's about how grace meets us in the real, raw, and aching places of our humanity and breathes life into what we thought was forever lost. This is not a tale of flawless faith. This is a journey through the trembling hearts of real people. People like you, like me. We will see Thomas not as a doubter to be judged, but as a soul longing for truth, wrestling with the silence between miracles. His doubt wasn't weakness. It was the birthplace of intimacy, because when Jesus appeared to him, he didn't scold him. He offered his scars. Touch me, he said, and believe. We will see Peter, broken and ashamed, remembering the sound of his own denial in the echo of a rooster's crow. The same voice that once promised to die for Jesus had faltered in the firelight. And yet, it was not the end of his story. The risen Christ called him by name, not to condemn him, but to restore him. Do you love me? Jesus asked him not once, but 3 times, one for each denial. With every reply, Peter's failure turned into faith. His shame became the soil for his calling. And then there's Mary Magdalene, not defined by her past, but by her passion. She stood before an empty tomb, tears falling into the silence, believing all was lost. But then she heard a voice, gentle, personal, holy, Mary. One word, spoken by the risen Christ, and sorrow melted into wonder. Her mourning became a mission, to carry the first good news of resurrection to a world still shrouded in fear. This is the miracle. The resurrection doesn't erase the pain. It redeems it. God does not bypass our brokenness. He walks right into it. He sits in the ashes with us. And then, in His time, He breathes life over the ruins. He speaks light into the shadows. He calls us by name, and we awaken. What about you? This isn't just a film. This is an invitation, a whisper to your heart, a question echoing through the halls of heaven, reaching for you right now. What pain in your life might God be preparing to redeem? What part of your story, though buried under regret or sorrow, might God be preparing to resurrect? What wound might become a wellspring of healing for others? Because you see, God wastes nothing, not a single tear, not a single failure, not a single night spent crying out, "Where are you, Lord?" Your heartbreak is holy ground, and He is already there, waiting to roll the stone away. Maybe you've been living in Saturday, the in-between place, after the cross, but before the dawn. the place where all feels quiet and hope feels dead. But Sunday always comes, a holy transformation in the hands of Jesus. Shame becomes a testimony. Doubt becomes revelation. Sorrow becomes song. The empty tomb isn't just history, it's prophecy. It speaks to your present. It declares over your life. You are not finished. You are not forsaken. You are not forgotten. The stone that sealed Jesus' tomb was massive, heavy, immovable by human strength. But heaven moved it, not just to let Jesus out, but to let you in, to show you that nothing is too big for God to lift. So again, I ask, what stone lies over your heart today? Is it fear, addiction, grief? Is it guilt from something you've done or something done to you? Whatever it is, know this: the stone has been rolled away. Jesus didn't just rise to prove he is God. He rose to pull you out of your grave, to say, "Come forth," to awaken your spirit, to wrap you in love so powerful, death itself had to bow. The resurrection is now. This isn't a theological exercise. This is a divine encounter. This isn't reserved for saints or scholars. This is for you, right here, right now. If Christ is alive, and he is, then no grave in your life is final. No addiction is permanent. No failure is fatal. No pain is purposeless. This is not a metaphor. This is your miracle. Jesus didn't just rise so we could tell the story. He rose so we could live it. So I ask you again, soul to soul, heart to heart, what does the resurrection mean to you? Let it awaken you when the resurrection of the Christ is released. Don't watch it like entertainment. Watch it like a mirror. Let it show you who you really are. Let it remind you of what's possible when God steps into your darkness. Watch it like a prayer. Let it stir the sleeping places of your soul, the dreams you gave up on, the faith that flickered, the innocence that was stolen. Let it whisper to your heart, "You're still loved. You're still called. You're still mine." Let it breathe over the dry bones of your spirit and prophesy life. Jesus is alive, and so are you. He is not a relic of the past. He is the King of right now. He is not a distant God. He is a Savior who walks through walls to reach you, who weeps when you weep, who rejoices over you with singing. The tomb is empty. The throne is occupied. And the same power that raised Jesus from the grave now lives in you. Yes, you. You are not just surviving. You were made to rise, to shine, to declare the goodness of God in the land of the living. So don't live like he's still in the grave. Share the light. If this message touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Be the spark that lights another soul. Be the hand that lifts someone from despair. Be the voice that says, "There is still hope." Tag someone who needs to remember they are more than their past. Leave a comment below. What does the resurrection mean to you? Your story matters. Your testimony could be the key that unlocks another person's prison. Your light may be the only light someone else sees today. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because this isn't just a channel. This is a movement, a gathering of hearts longing for the real, the raw, the redemptive power of Jesus. The journey is just beginning. We're not just speaking about faith here. We're walking it. We're living it. We're wrestling with it in the wilderness and dancing with it in the deliverance. Together, this film is not just a project. It's a prayer. It's a call to awaken every soul that has forgotten how to hope. It's a trumpet sounding in the valley of dry bones. It's the heartbeat of heaven echoing through a generation. He is risen, and He is calling you to rise too. A final invitation. So now, dear soul, beloved child of God, let the stone be rolled away. Let the light break in. Let the grave clothes fall off. Come out of hiding. Come out of shame. Come out of despair. The tomb is empty. That means you don't have to stay buried. Jesus didn't rise so you could live a quiet, defeated life. He rose so you could live free, fully, passionately, eternally. You have a calling. You have a testimony. You have a God who still moves stones. So rise, child of light. Rise, for your Savior is alive. He is risen, and so shall you be.